Hello, I'm AJ Fitzwater, author of feminist and queer speculative fiction. I was one of the editors for Flash Frontier's December issue of speculative fiction, and it's an honour to be here reading for you for National Flash Fiction Day. I'm reading from my newly released novella, No Man's Land, from Paper Road Press. It's a story about World War II land girls in New Zealand. It's a fantasy novella, and the two girls featured in it, T and Izzy, discover they have shape-shifting abilities. T had smelled the question before it drew breath. It radiated as much sunshine as her blouse. What was she wearing? The girl had asked. The wrong clothes, the wrong skin. A skin that pretended she could be a good farmhand. A skin obviously too much like her brother's. She hadn't decided if that was a good or a bad thing. This was her one chance to draw a new skin over herself. Who knew how long the war would last before she'd have to stop pretending and find a husband? T blushed as she hurried to catch up with Izzy. There was another scent mingling with the new large scents all around. They were nothing near as terrible as she thought she'd find them. The farm made a great blanket of awareness, quite unlike her disjointed understanding of the city. She'd always been carefully attuned. Scents were warnings, heralds, rewards. She had never told anyone about this strange heightened awareness, not even her brother. It made her sound quite mad. Chattering far too easily about sharing timetables and meal times and rising at ridiculous o'clock, Izzy exuded tough. Mum had warned her about tough girls. They wore pants, cut their hair shorter than was proper, smoked cigarettes and had loud voices, big rough hands and too brown skin from working outside. Izzy went on about all sorts of strange things, about eating and drinking that didn't make sense. T snuck another glance at Izzy's long jaw and nose. She was lucky. The width gave away nothing, while her own sometimes warranted a second look. Mr. McGregor wouldn't have asked the same disquieting question of Izzy that T had been on the pointed end of earlier. Mrs. McGregor pumped the dinner bell a second time, and T hurried to store away her tools. "Bell only goes twice," Izzy explained, slipping off mucky boots, lining them up neat, and padding into a washroom. 5 minutes to wash up, and if you're not done in that time, you go hungry. The girl who had been feeding the dogs earlier, all red pigtails and freckles, burst into the washroom and grabbed up the Sunlight soap. She reeked of dog. "Tuesday." "Sorry?" T paused in lathering her hands. Izzy indicated between them with soapy hands. "Alison Twiddle, T Grey." T murmured a greeting then. "What do you mean, Tuesday?" "Lamb chop day," Alison grinned. Saliva sprang into T's mouth. Real farm lamb chops? Rationed lamb had been on the small side, fatless, infrequent. They did this every Tuesday? Lost in her meaty daydreaming, T only gave half her attention to Alison's questions, which were, yet again, about her brother. They passed through the spacious kitchen, where an enormous wood-run shacklock blasted heat. Mrs. McGregor's head twitched when she heard Robbie's name. "Later, Miss Twiddle. So the poor girl doesn't have to repeat herself 5 times over. Here we go, ladies. Steady as you go, all the way through to the dining room, please." She handed out piled high plates. The huge dining room featured creamy sconces, burgundy carpets and an enormous porcelain-infested sideboard. Even the black paint on the bay window had been applied neat and smooth, adding a cool dim glaze to the room. T almost sat with relief for her aching back, but snatched her hands away from the high-backed chair when she saw Izzy, Alison, Grant and the other land girl waiting silently, eyes ardent on their food. A grandfather clock in the hall ticked slow and heavy, matching the low rumbles in T's stomach. She jumped when a sonorous bong from the clock welcomed Mr. McGregor into the dining room. Mrs. McGregor followed with 2 plates. Mr. McGregor measured the gathered workers with stormy grey eyes under the dark clouds of his enormous eyebrows. Sit. Chairs scraped, Izzy to her left, Grant to her right. Bless us, O Lord, and these gifts for what we're about to receive. T fumbled for the words as the others mumbled along. And may you safely bring our boys back home, said Mrs. McGregor at the end. Amen, Mr. McGregor stated emphatically. Amen, mumbled the diners. With a clatter of silverware, dinner turned into something altogether different, as everyone tried to slough off the morbidity. T quickly hacked off a slice of lamb and bit down. 2 chops. 2! The best she had tasted in 2.5 years. So, you're Robbie's sister, the unfamiliar girl stated. T repressed a small sigh. Robbie's sister. Robbie's sister, always just Robbie's sister. She stuffed the thought down with a mouthful of potatoes and nodded. Izzy saved her. This is T, she said, somehow able to chew and talk at the same time without earning a glare from Mr. McGregor. I'm Carmel Atkinson. She flicked back toffee blonde curls. Sorry I wasn't there to meet you. Me and Izzy, we were bringing the sheep down for the next shearing. T nodded back, mouth still too full. Shearing already? Were there enough boys in the gang from the district? Then there was Grant in his 2 big clothes, watching the conversation flow by. He chewed over every word like he chewed on his chops, slow and careful. Especially the ones about Robbie. Yes, Robbie had joined the 2nd Expeditionary Force out of London. No, he wasn't allowed to say where and when he'd been deployed. Yes, he was still alive as far as she knew. No, she hadn't received a letter in the last few weeks. Yes, she would read them later to everyone if they so wished. They did. Grant said nothing, but when she glanced at him out the corner of her eye as pudding was delivered to the table, there was a strange glint in his eyes. He must be jealous, because he was not of a health or a size to sign up. T glanced right as the 2nd best china cups came out for the tea. Grant nodded along to something Mr. McGregor was saying about top dressing with the collected manure. What on earth was that? But under the tablecloth he massaged the large red knuckles of his skinny right hand. Only when then did she catch his scent. Warm clay dust and wool, rather pleasant. Why hadn't she caught it earlier? As she started thinking up words to describe him to Mum in her letters, he gave the tiniest of grimaces, as if he'd heard her thoughts. A sting. T's right hand went into spasm, fingernails biting into her palm. Her teaspoon of sugar clattered into the saucer, and black liquid sloshed on the tablecloth. Mrs. McGregor clucked her dismay. Mr. McGregor growled a warning. All apologies and dabbing napkins, T flapped her hands, thinking she'd caught a splash from the pot or a wasp had made its way to the dinner table. But it was neither. A ghost sting. Her fingers were still prickling by the time the mess was cleared up. Face hot beneath the stares from the diners, she resumed drinking her tea, wringing her fingers under the table between mouthfuls. Grant took the tiny uproar in his stride, neither scolding nor laughing. T appreciated his gentle silence. Was that the tiniest of glances through his sun-lightened lashes? T didn't dare catch the McGregor's disapproval a second time during the meal. It wouldn't do to be accused of anything untoward on her first day. Her first day at work. Her first day away from home. The stares whittled away as Alison and Carmel took instructions for the next day. There were groans over thistle grubbing, race cleaning and wood chopping. T volunteered for the wood chopping, something she knew how to do and was good at. Not all the stares left her alone. Izzy narrowed her eyes when she caught T rubbing her fingertips together. Grant, too, kept making a fist. T could hear his large knuckles crack. Thank you for listening. This is No Man's Land, out now from Paper Road Press, and I'm AJ Fitzwater.